Cowardice asks, the question, is it safe? Expediency asks, the question, is it politic? Vanity asks, the question, is it popular? But conscience asks, the question, is it right? And there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but he must do it because conscience tells him it is right.
Every time our country stands in the path of danger, an instinct seems to summon her finest first, those who truly understand her. When freedom shivers in the cold shadow of true peril, it's always the patriots who first hear the call. When loss of liberty is looming, as it is now, the siren sounds first in the hearts of freedom's vanguard.
Fighting for humanity and against globalism, one mind at a time. It's the Freedom Link with Joe Joseph.
Well, yes, it's time once again for another exciting episode of the Freedom Link here, Scotty, and oh man, what a night we have tonight. Let me tell you something. So, first of all, we've been talking about a lot lately about how cosmic change has really wreaked havoc on the Earth and on our weather systems and on migratory patterns and on species, whether you see them thrive or they just poof, go away. You've been seeing that accelerate. And boy, tonight we have a very special guest. So Chip Hailstone is our guest, and he comes from Norvik, Alaska. Now, if you've seen the series Life Up North, then his name might ring a bell. Well, the 20 seasons, Emmy Awards, which is pretty cool. And let me tell you something, if you're a prepper, you've probably seen this show, and you've seen the unbelievable stuff that you can learn on subsistence lifestyle. And man, Scotty, you remember the time we were talking like wood gasifiers and 0 point energy and all that stuff on the Freaky Friday show?
Right. Yeah. A lot of the sort of things you could do to, stay off grid and be self-sufficient and, a lot of this sort of alternative sort of way of doing things. That way you don't have to rely on the system so much. And,
that's right.
Right. And, you'd be amazed on how much information is out there and how much stuff you can actually do to not be so reliant on the system, if you will, on grid, right? And so,
down in Florida, they actually condemned a lady's house because it wasn't hooked up to the grid. Literally, I mean, it was like against.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. So tonight our guest is Chip Hailstone, and I'd like to add him because Chip, welcome aboard.
Hi.
This is something of a treat for us because we talk about this kind of stuff all the time, and then I start watching the show, and it's like, oh man, the things you guys do, and the way you're able to live off the land, and do so efficiently. I was like, oh, it's possible. It's not all bunkum. It's not like they try to say, no, you don't want to do that. Well, that's bad.
It's kind of an amalgamation of things that we do to make a living. There's every aspect, you're getting food, you're getting good health, but in the end too, you need to make a few bucks because you got to buy things that cost money. Gasoline can't be traded for whitefish, so some of them evil things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like you're saying, there's being condemned for not having stuff. If you live without water by choice, that's you can do the work, and it's not a problem. It's really actually the way people were for the last few thousand years. But 2006, we got water run to our house in Norvik, and to be able to flush a toilet and turn on a water from a tap, man, I felt like a king. It's crazy. Just to say. And then
That's awesome.
we get a water bill for $50 a month, but what we saw a lot of childhood sicknesses go away. A lot of there's a lot of sickness, a lot of unhealth that goes along with having to dispose of human waste and stuff, and human waste
Well,
management.
hygiene.
And
Hygiene was a major
hygiene basically.
factor. Yeah,
Oh
hygiene
yeah.
was a major factor in the expansion of the lifespan, right around the turn of the 20th century. So yeah, just what you said. You get running water, you'd be floored at how that longevity expands because of the fact that we can wash. We're clean.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing how much
We
that
washed
that
before,
difference.
but it was a major undertaking. We'd have to haul the water here, then you do your washing, then you have to dispose of it, and
Right.
that's heavy. Water weighs a lot, and what we ended up doing was I had a system made up of an elevated shower, and my kids would take baths, but we'd take a shower, and then I used a bilge pump from a boat, and I ran a hose up with a nozzle and stuff, and we'd drop that in a 5-gallon bucket of hot water that we'd made in the front room on the wood stove, and I take a real shower. But we still had to lift up the 5 gallons that was left over, and go put it somewhere safe and stuff. And it's evolved. This town, this little village here, Norvik, has evolved pretty well. And that's what I like about the folks up here. They're always looking to advance themselves. They want running water. They want better things. They want a better life for their kids. And it's the attitude up here is really, really, really progressive. Not progressive in a political sense, but progressive in like, hey, let's keep up with the rest of the world. If this is what's going to make life better, let's do it. And they got no shame in it. And so
and you shouldn't.
So
and you really shouldn't.
No, they shouldn't. They shouldn't. But people are like stuck on traditional things, and there's a heavy undercurrent here of tradition. That's a fact. But just the superficial part of making a living using a laptop computer, and these kids all have one nowadays, and or driving somewhere rather than having to walk that distance anymore. There's just different aspects to it. But then there's things that come along, that mess everybody up in one way or another. Maybe too much time on the cell phone, or kids fighting over different little things, and they're doing it in text I can't even read. So it's crazy, but there's the good and the take. So when we get not tired of it, but when we get a little wore out and things are a little little dirty side, and maybe we've got a good load made up, we come back here to Norvik, or we go to our son in Deering. He has a house over there. We do our laundry there. We didn't used to. We used to do laundry for 9 people by hand.
So you live at camp the majority of the time now?
We have in the last 3 years because of COVID.
Yeah.
And we want to make the show, and we want to do good things, but you just had to isolate yourself. So hey, where better to go than what I consider home? So that's where we went. Right now I'm sitting in my bedroom. I came here a couple of days ago, and my kids keep a lock on our door and pile up all my mail behind me.
No, that's awesome, man. No, but I was like, wow,
so
what a cool
Christmas
place.
Day.
If you had to get stuck somewhere.
How was that?
I mean, if you have to get if you have to get stuck somewhere, I mean, Kowalek's probably one of the nicer places I would think I would want to get stuck at. I don't know. That's just my humble. Yeah, it's quiet. Now, like,
quiet.
Is it how like as far as the density of people in that area? I mean, are you guys out there on your own, or?
Well, we are in the Kewalik, but then to 29 miles to the east, we have Buckland, which is a little village. My wife's got a brother there and a bunch of family. And then 29 miles to our west, we have our son living there. And then seasonally, there's people that live in camps up the river from us. So we go and visit them sometimes. They're not interested in being on a show, so they're obviously not shown. And then we've got like a couple of airstrips in the area that we might go over to, like catch a small bush plane out, or to land with. Then like in the wintertime, it's almost all snow machines. Right now is our price of gas has gone to $9 a gallon, and a flight
$9 a gallon.
Oh my
God! Yeah, it's been that before. Oh, it's been that before. we were just loving the last 4 years. I'll tell you that. Or like the last
man.
6 years.
But yeah, that's where the oil comes from. Is Alaska one of the places, right? It shouldn't be $9 a gallon.
Well, think about this. Think about in 2015, or was it 20? Yeah, it was 2015. The price of a 35-gallon barrel of crude oil went to like $129, and we paid $9 a gallon. Now we're paying $9 a gallon, and I don't think it broke $100. So someone's really ripping us off somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I watched that stuff, and I remember.
But damn, man, I mean, you're in Alaska. That's a pipeline. That's what you guys are known for, and you're paying $9 a gallon. Okay, I could see Hawaii, right? Hawaii, yeah. Hawaii's like got to go over there. Yeah, right. One way or another, it's got to get there. But you guys, that's where they pump it from. So damn, I mean, it boggles the mind sometimes. And then
we get to be efficient.
Oh yeah,
we get to be really efficient.
Isn't that great? That makes you feel so good, doesn't it? Oh, that's right, America. Yeah. So, so with that said, that means gasoline $9 a gallon. What's other, like, if you have to go? First of all, for people to get a better understanding of your community, how, like, is there like a Dollar General? Is there any sort of like types of stores around your area that you get at basically anything? You know?
Yeah, we have a mom and pop store across from the road from us over here, and then there's another mom and pop store up the way, and they sell odd things, very odd things, whatever their spur of the moment stuff is. But then we have what we call the native store, which is owned by the local tribe, and they try to provide stuff at a minimal profit. I guess they're nonprofit, and so they bring a lot of stuff up here. And if I want canned goods or frozen goods, or I usually wait till Saturday or Wednesday and go get vegetables or fruits if they got them. The rest of it, I just kind of. But they might have some nuts and bolts that I need one day, or a cable or a piece of chain or something. And it's like a general use store up there. But other than that, it's pretty much you just either get on the telephone and start calling around to find stuff, or you get on the internet and start to try to find stuff. And we haven't had a post office in operation here since June.
Really?
So everything that I've been waiting for in the mail, arrived when somebody opens the post office for a day, and you get everything you've waited for a month in one day. So hence the pile of mail.
How do you like that?
They finally got to check it after a couple months. Yeah, well, the kids, they keep up on it. And there's always one of our kids around watching the house or watching the mail or watching the dogs or whatever we leave behind. And they're trying to send stuff out and having to send it to Kotzebue to a friend and have the friend drop it in the post office. So it can be a lot more complicated to live here than you can imagine sometimes.
How the hell do you like
that?
But
sometimes this place is golden. Sometimes it's like, I'm really glad I'm away from the rest of the world. But unfortunately, it's it's a human thing. There's drama here. There's idiots. There's great people too.
Yeah, we got a question from the audience. Seriously, this is Joe Fox from Facebook. Seriously, I'm into panning. Can you pan for gold in your area? I don't know. Do you guys?
It's all claimed pretty much that I know of. But if a fellow wanted to prospect the northern Seward Peninsula where Kewalik is, there's been a lot of gold activity on there for the last 120 some odd years. And I just started looking up some history on the area and see where you want to go. Nome is the southern end of the Seward Peninsula, and Kewalik, where I'm at, is on the northern side. But there was gold all over the Seward Peninsula. So
wow,
I would say yes, but I would say in my immediate area, it's pretty well taken up. It's much of its patent ground because it's been mined since the early 1900s, and that's, you have to talk to the owners on that one. Yeah.
Wow.
I that's how I got down there. Actually, I'm a mechanic. I took a mechanics school right after high school, and I took an industrial mechanics and a diesel technologies. I ended up in Canada working in a gold mine there, and you'll meet the worst people in the world in them gold mines. Talk about greedy bastards. But then there's always really good people who just want to make some money. And I kind of equate it with the fellas that I worked with. They were reindeer herders and they were hunters and trappers. And in the summertime, they were gold miners because that's where the money was. And some of them went off and fought forest fires. Some of them went up mining the Red Dog for lead and zinc, which is a local Inupiaq-owned mine that provides a ton of money, a ton of jobs and training up here. So it's mining is a part of this place up here, but so was hunting and trapping and fishing. It was all seasonal. So when I was there, I was meeting people that were like, "Hey, what are you going to do this winter?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I obviously ain't going to be gold mining." And so they'd say, "Well, we're going to be trapping this way, or we're going to travel this way, or we're going to do this." And I just followed them. We were all friends. You're good friends with the people you work with usually, or you should be. That's how it works out for me. And I just followed them around. Yeah, get a girlfriend or something in a village and find a village or whatever you're going to go do. It's just take it as it comes. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Scotty, you got anything to throw there?
No, I was just gonna say that my dad's a big fan of the show, Chip. So I'm gonna be sending him this after
That's awesome.
after we get done. And
Life Below Zero. Life Below Zero.
Life Below Zero. Right.
And LBZ.
And it is. By the way, I got to tell you. So there's a part in the show. I think it was when you used. Was it Agnes that you used you as a ramp, or did you use Agnes as a ramp? It was like one of the last ones, but by the snowmobile got stuck, and man, it was like, well, wham, and it went right over. I was like, holy smokes!
Oh no, we don't use each other for ramps.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. But
what you do is you get one person grabs a ski, and a lot of times when you're pulling on the ski and the machine's moving forward, you fall to the side. It's common. So I can see what you're talking about.
It's like, yeah, you guys, here's a 40 below zero, and we're stuck.
Yeah.
And man, this sucks. This is a bad thing. I'm like, man, how far are they away? And the next thing you know, it's just like, wham! I mean, just everybody it just all clicked. I mean, yeah, it was kind of bad for a little while, but it all clicked. But 40 below zero, my lungs are hurting just watching you guys doing things because
it hurts.
I can't even. How do you guys do it? Do you get used to it?
It hurts. Take the pain.
Yeah, but I mean, do you get used to it?
Yeah. Like I'll give you a good example. I didn't grow up getting frozen. I mean, I grew up in Montana. You get cold, but like my wife grew up out here and she got frostbites. And once you get a frostbite pretty much on your skin, the next time it comes along, you're not going to feel it. But the first time you'll feel a burning sensation. So I'm pretty much unfrostbitten. My wife, it just clobbers her. She's got big cheeks. She's got, she'll put on sunglasses, and where the plastic touches, it'll make dots all around her eyes. It'll burn the middle of her nose. Usually mine's just the middle of my nose because I got such a big nose. It holds the glasses off my face. But in March, when it's 40 below, but the daylight is 20 hours, or 16 hours, and we're out all day long, you get the worst sunburn, and it'll burn your eyes. You get a snow blind. So you have to wear freaking glasses or something. And those are the worst ones because then you have them all over your face, and then you have a painful face. And of course, you can cover everything up but your face.
So, right. I mean, you can't cover. That's terrible. I mean,
and isn't it wild? It's wild how it can be so cold, but yet you can still get a sunburn. But then you still got to worry about getting frostbite as well. It's like you're dealing with two like opposite things at the same time. Yeah.
And then don't sweat. By the way,
try not to.
Don't sweat because if you sweat, well, that's just as bad. It's like there's the delicate balance that you're trying to maintain between all of this stuff, and you just really
that's where fur clothing comes in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have a nice fur parka, and my wife would too. And when you sweat in fur like that, and it's 40 below, you turn the fur out. You give it about 10 seconds, you let it freeze, and you just brush it right off, and you flip it back over, and you put it back on again. But when you're wearing cotton, or you're wearing down feathers, or some new kind of poly, whatever the heck, to keep warm, those things load up with ice, and you can't stay out there more than 3 or 4 days without having to find some place to completely thaw them out. But if you have fur, I could basically just keep drying out my fur parka, put it over top of damp clothes, and I stay warm.
Flash freeze.
But I only use that parka when it's really cold. Yeah, my parka's heavy, kind of bulky, and I like things that are light because I walk quite a bit. And when I'm sitting on the snow machine, then I have the parka on, no problem. Drive everywhere, whatever the wind chill is, all that. But when I stop and I start exercising, then the layers come off, and that's how you avoid the freezing. Because then you get down to the t-shirt and a hoodie, it's really strange because in the summertime, we often wear exactly what we wear till about 0. So 50 above down to 0, it's about the same thing. And then you add another layer, and then about 20 below, another layer, and then at 40 below, another layer. Yeah, it can get bulky and heavy. So fur, that's where fur comes in. Yeah.
Because see, at 0, so what would I be like at 0? Because when I remember standing out at the bus stop, right? And I grew up back in the late 70s, early 80s, and into the 80s, and you standing at the bus stop. Sometimes it was like -10, and oh, by the way, I got up too late, so I'm running out, and my hair's freezing, and all this kind of stuff. But it didn't matter because it was like one day. But let me tell you something, man. 0 is cold. It's very cold. So what I find extremely interesting is up there when you're in the environment that Alaska is, there is a much wider swath of temperature that you guys are not just subjected to, but you're used to operating in. Whereas we're here in like Massachusetts or in the Midwest, it's to me, it's like a narrower gap. I mean, you might not get into the 90s and all, but to me, like 70s to 90s, there's not much of a difference. But you guys go from,
we die.
say, 9, yeah, well, right, but say 80s, you hit the 80s in Alaska, of course, and then the big swath the other way, -60, and you guys are out there doing your thing, and I'm like, what? Are you crazy? This is.
I'd rather be cold than hot.
It happened to me one time. Go ahead.
It's amazing. It's an excellent example of how adaptable humans are to their environment, right?
Yes.
And so it just shows that if you've lived in that environment, if you've been raised in that environment, if your ancestors have been raised in that environment as well, because I'm sure there's probably, I would say that there's a genetic component to it as well. If you're living with a group of people up there who have lived up there for however long,
hundreds
of thousands of years, right? They're gonna adapt to that environment, and they're gonna already kind of have a predisposition of being able to handle it, and so it just shows how awesome it is that humans are able to adapt to their environment and just and then you take somebody out of that environment and put them in another environment. They're like, whoa, how do these people handle it? You know what I mean? Like
think about this.
I wouldn't want to be in downtown LA.
Here's the interesting thing here's the interesting thing about adaptation, though. In Chip's case, Chip came from continental U.S., right? So he adapted over a short period of time, or a shorter period of time than, say, his wife Agnes and her bloodline, who have been there generations upon generations upon generations. But once he became attached, whoop, it's almost like you just become. It's almost like you meld and become.
Right. It's another.
It's adapted. It's a really good adaptation.
Right. It's a good example of showing how fast humans can adapt. When they are taken out of their normal environment.
I was young.
Oh, go ahead.
That helped. And it was this whole society of people that camped and hunted and fished. It wasn't just like, oh, I'll go to somewhere and meet a few of these guys that like to hunt and fish. It's like everybody had a camp to go to. Everybody ate fish and seals and birds. And, of course, there's the few that live on food stamps or maybe having some kind of job, and they prefer to eat from the store. It's spaghetti and tacos.
What kind of jobs are there, though? I mean, like, honestly, if they...
Well, that's the thing. They're seasonal, and we have, like, my wife's corporation. They have when they made a land settlement with these folks, and these folks said, "Hey, look, we own this place," and they had an irrefutable history of being here. They were, they made compensations, and one of the compensations was to form land corporations to have land management for the large swaths of land that were private lands that these natives own in common. So they own it in a shareholder type of way. They don't own it in a capitalistic way. So, right. So they're shareholders to a corporation that manages their lands in common. And these guys, they have a huge history together. They're like a largely identified family together. And they They adapt to anything that's going to make their life better. Another thing they're not into is like inbreeding. So my wife met me, and I wasn't her cousin. So you know how that goes. It's just we got along fine.
That's excellent.
No, just saying. And the great thing about folks up here is that, like, if you're like a little bit Eskimo, man, you're in. You know what I'm saying? And then like me, it took time. I've been here 33, 34 years. And I've got grandkids, but I also have lots of nieces and nephews, and I have an uncle and a tata and a neighbor, and they say, "Hey, join us," you know, and so you know, I don't go to like I call it NANA is the name of the corporation that they're formed. So I don't go to like NANA meetings. I don't go to I don't hype up the Eskimo end of it all, but I admire what they're up to, and I think they should be proud of themselves. But they're not proud of themselves to the extent they would disclude me, which is pretty cool. And
that is cool.
yeah,
so they kind of
they don't have they can say, "Hey, I'm proud of being an Eskimo, but I'm not so proud that you're garbage or anything." And they don't blame other people for the way that things have gotten. They've kept control, and they've still got control, and they're going to have it tomorrow too. I tell you that.
You know what's
because they're organized and go ahead.
The interesting thing to what you're saying is in stark contrast, quite frankly, to a lot of the native lands in America, in the United States, where a lot of the reservations and those places are, I mean, they struggle horribly with blight and poverty and all sorts of issues. Whereas I find that up in your region, it's much more the stewardship, the responsibility, the attitude
Intact.
is it much intact and much different, but tradition and the how do you say it, the importance of following on in that tradition is
Those are
much
Inupiaq
more
values.
greater. It's ingrained in
Those are,
in the culture up there. Yeah.
Oh, they're taught that. They used to be, word to ear, and now it's written in the schools. They have an what they call an Inupiaq Eliquisate, which is their values, and they memorize those core values, and they're kind of unique. They're definitely not something that the neighbors have or anything, but these folks have kept control down south. Growing up in Montana, I had the Flathead Salish Kootenai Reservation, and right north of us was the Blackfeet, and it was just the history of that was that they were conquered in wars. They were called the Indian Wars, and there was genocides where they just flat killed everybody. And if you see those old pictures, you see men and women, children, old people, they're all dead. It was a war, and it was declared, you remember Manifest Destiny, and in the Constitution, of course, the only people that Congress negotiates with are the Indians, because at that time Indians were nations. And while they were nations, we set out to conquer them, because if we had made them citizens, it would have been illegal. It would have been genocide, on our part. Right. But we had it anyway, so we killed folks off. It didn't happen in Alaska. Southern Alaska was subjugated by the Russians in the 1700s, 1600s, whenever. And the sea otter, pelts were the big value then. It was before beavers got to it. And they subjugated the Aleutians and Southeast Alaskan Indian tribes. But when the United States bought the right to protect, tax, and govern this territory, that all stopped. There was no more of it went on. That was 1867. And, basically a reservation was a prisoner of war camp. So these people weren't even allowed to be on land that they knew. And when you don't know your land and you're a hunter and you can't leave the land to follow the migrations, they were subjugated. They were stuck in schools. They were made to eat other foods. They were made to grow crops, which is something that they weren't up to. And that was the history of the South, of the way that Indians were treated, and it wasn't right in the point of view we have today. But when that stuff was going on, is how the world operated.
That's how it worked. Yeah.
It's how it happened. Yes. So you can't destroy history, but you can look back at it and say that it never fucking happened again. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like the Holocaust or anything else. You can't erase it, but and you certainly want to make people aware of it. But it's sad. Jacksonian, the Jackson mentality that went through, it started with the Trail of Tears and moving out the Cherokee to just flat out manifest destiny and war against a thing was just probably the worst president we ever had, for all I think. But
you know what?
Can't take it back.
No, you can't take it back. Interestingly enough, though, when you take a look, it's funny you bring that up. So you look at the Jacksonian presidency, and of course you have that, which is terrible. I mean, beyond recognizable. I mean, I can't even You can't even put it into words how terrible it is. On the other hand, he single-handedly takes down the first bank of the United States, and for a very long time set America on a path independent of the bankers, which of course soon enough afterwards we get the Federal Reserve, and then it all doesn't matter anyway. So it's so screwed up because he was probably out of all the presidents the most screwed up to have to go down that path and say, man, on the one hand, this guy kicked ass and took names. On the other hand, boy, he was like Satan incarnate when it comes to, indigenous people, because he just didn't give a shit. It was all about take out as much as they can. We're going to cleanse the gene pool, folks. That's what we're going to do. And they aren't part of it. And and it was anything goes.
They had land. It was land. Yep. That's right. My God. And he gave land to people that supported his, his constituents. They said, hey, look, it's wide open. And when you think back on things like that, it doesn't come down. I don't see any racist attitudes towards it, but I see a dominating, society comes in and just obliterates the next. If you've ever read the book Steel, Germs, and Guns, it pretty much explains it. The big die-off wasn't because we took people out and shot them in the back of the neck. It was because a disease preceded us and knocked them to their knees. And then, we rolled in I wouldn't even say we, because you know what? My ancestry had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
German and English.
Yeah, right.
But, yeah. My family came over in the 1870s. However, I will say that as a citizen of the United States, our predecessors as citizens did this horrible shit. And, not that we owe up to it nowadays or anything, but this is what happened. So that's what brought the Alaskan natives that I live with nowadays to where they are, to where they said, no, this ain't going to happen to us. We control the land. We've got a history here. They got they did a Nesca and a Nilka, and these folks are in control. They may not have gotten a whole bunch of it, but they can do things we can't, or that I can't. I'm not an Alaskan native residing on the coast with a history of hunting seals, so I can't go whaling or sealing. And oddly enough, most natives can't either, because according to federal law, you have to live in the area that you're going to be subsisting in. So you can't fly up from, say, Anchorage, go to Barrow and become a whaling captain, or go whaling legally. But
so if you have the bloodline, that's only part of it, I guess, right?
It's only part of it. Yes. And that's the federal thing. And then Alaska, the state of Alaska says that you can hunt and fish and subsist anywhere you want to in the state of Alaska, as long as you're an Alaskan resident. And so that conflicts with the federal laws. And then there's other federal laws. When these folks seceded title and further claim to lands up here, those lands were locked up for them to use as monuments, national parks. You can't hunt in Glacier Park. I can't go over there and go get myself a really killer elk, but these folks up here can. Even during sequester, they can be in all these national parks. They can be on all these federal lands that they want to, because it was part of what their treaties ended up being. And what they've basically done is taken the status of a territory. So native lands, while it's private land, is kind of like having Samoa or Puerto Rico, where they go by the Constitution, they use the money, they join the army, they get the education system, but they have self-determination. They can say, this is what's going to happen here. This is our local, ideas. This is how we're going to deal with this. Maybe it could be, like with us, we have Maniluk, which is a health consortium. And these folks talk about setting up some sort of tribal, like a judicial system, because we have a really bad lack of justice here. Hardcore lack of justice.
Is that right?
And just other basic things that people need to have if you're going to live in a big group, like a village or something, that probably weren't, allowed down south or something, because like I said, those, reservations were quite a bit differently run. But and it reflects in the folks up here.
How is justice horrible? Here? But I mean,
it's non-existent.
If you were to compare it to continental US up there, what's the differences?
Down south, you could probably get help from the police in less than 24 hours. And then you probably would actually go to court over things like attempted murders and rapes and stuff like that. But a lot of that up here is just out the window. It depends on who calls first, if the troopers show up, and then you have to be aware of the troopers themselves. I knew it. 99% of the troopers are fine, but it's a race to the phone, what they've heard, what they think, how they decide on something that, didn't happen in front of them. Boy, that stuff's out the window. It's crazy.
Really?
I had a guy try to kill me last year. Yeah, he got me in the head twice with a hatchet. And I managed to fight him and his family off. and they put my daughter and my grandson, who was 18 months old at the time, in the hospital for 5 days. And like, I think they gave him some time served or something when his court finally came around. And I've got 2 good strikes in my in the top of my head from a hatchet. Yeah, an East Wing,
man.
kind of blue handles. Yeah, yeah. So
That's
you got to take care of yourself around here. We don't have police around here.
Okay, so
we were defunded years ago.
Oh, okay. So like from like a criminal, like a crime standpoint, is it more Wild West, or is it? I can't
it's like
imagine
a family.
that. Okay,
these people all live around each other, so it depends on what they're gonna. If they're gonna be stealing something, it's probably not from each other. Maybe it'd be someone from out of town. If they're going to fight somebody, they'll fight till they're down. They don't keep stomping
but
on
it's
them.
it's more of like a family, because
you
like
fight your brother kind of thing, so you don't really want to hurt him, but you want to make his nose bleed. Yeah, one of those things. That's
okay.
There's a temperament to it. But then you have kids who are either drinking, or you have bored kids, or I don't know, young adults. Same thing. All that comes along. But thankfully, we don't have people sticking needles in their arms. We're not dealing with a meth problem here. We don't have homeless people. Nobody goes hungry. It's and the support system up here is all family based, and most people are related by marriage or by blood in some way. And so, you go crash on your cousin's house when you're stuck in their village, or maybe you go look for your niece or your nephew.
I find it interesting that you said that, because, from a family perspective, and if, everybody watching, that's not a bad thing. As a matter of fact, you would expect there to be more conflict in a familial setting, because of the fact that, think about it. If you got brothers and sisters and you're around them all the time, you want to beat the snot out of them all the time, right? It's what you do. It comes with the territory. So of course you're going to have an uptick in something like that. But what you also have is that sense of ownership, that sense of stewardship of that family. And that also resonates too, and I really hate it when people call it that Wild West, because it's not. And nor was the Wild West wild like they said it was. It was exactly like you said. People moved in family units. And when you did so, there was a lot more accountability, but more so, if ever there was an attack or an attempt against one, it was an attack against all. And that's kind of how it went. And there was that just sense that doesn't exist much anymore. But apparently it does, just up north.
Yeah, maybe look back in the day, right? Like, the back in the 1800s or whatever, the Wild West, if you will. And it actually, that was pretty civil, because you had everybody knew everyone was packing, everyone was armed, and if you tried something stupid,
you get a hatchet upside the head.
And look at how they dealt with people stealing horses and stuff. You were taking a trip to the town square, and everybody you were going to be made an example of in front of everybody, and it really kind of set the tone of how you need to conduct yourself in society. And it wasn't as wild like they make it out to be, where everyone's running around firing pistols in the air, and just it wasn't all like that. And
I think anarchy might have a lot to do with saving these folks up here, because they would roll up to a village, and it says, and maybe down south they say, who are your chiefs? We want to meet them, sign a paper or whatever. And these folks would be like, well, that's my great grandmother right there. She knows when the fish are coming, so she's in charge. And they'd be like, well, who's your chief? And they'd say, well, maybe this guy over here. He's our chief when we hunt caribou. And they'd go over to that guy and say, oh, so you're the chief? He'd say, well, maybe not when we're whale hunting. I follow this guy over here because he knows what he's doing better than me. And they had no one in charge. And it was like you said, though, if I killed some man, his brother would try to kill me. And if his brother couldn't kill me, he would kill my brother. And you had to think about that for you went off killing people,
That's right.
And exactly.
They did have warfare up here, and they did have disputes, and they're very human. You had the tough guys. There's a guy in Point Hope that kept a meat rack outside his house, and it had the bodies of 4 guys he had killed. And everybody saw it every day. And when he said, this is what we're going to do, or how we're going to do it, people listened. But he was also a tough guy for like the entire place, because it's a very good whaling place. They built a whaling station there, and he literally took a rifle down, he called them the Portuguese, because I guess it was a company of Portuguese whalers, put a rifle to their face and said, I'll kill all of you if you hunt whales on the south side of the spit. You get to hunt on the north side, which was the bad side, or maybe where the whales went after they went past the folks up there. But they could negotiate stuff. They were really good traders, excellent workers. Ships had come up here in the 1800s, and they'd be, skeleton crew, and they would fill out with Eskimos, and then they would give them trade goods, and everybody would leave happy. And it just snowballed into almost to the point to where, like, I don't want to say they want to accept law, but they saw the things that they wanted to have, and they kept them, and they kept out the stuff they didn't like. And it took till about the 1920s before the law was really established up here. And then it was just a system of marshals and people who would assist them, which is why we had the militia. Militia, It was in the Second Amendment because there was no police back then. There was no police force. There was no FBI coming to, save a kidnapped person. There was no one to stop the cattle raids or, burning your farm set down or whatever's happening. These people had raiders too. And they're all in their history and their lore and stuff. And it's really interesting. If you read it, it's very compatible to anywhere else in the world, but it's just what happened here. And these folks have a long history of taking care and settling their own disputes. And a lot of that is in recent history. And if you just give me a minute, I'll explain one connection we've got here.
Sure.
Is that
Go ahead.
My wife was born in 1970 or so. Her dad was born in 1903. He was the last child of a lady named Mary. And Mary came from a village that doesn't exist anymore. And they did an archaeological dig up the Kobuk River and dug up these folks that were dead in their house and checked out this old village. And they started looking at the history, the oral history around here. And they kind of determined what village that was. And and the different things they were eating and how things went up there. Well, we kept reading further, and there's a family up the river named Jackson. And one guy was Stonewall Jackson, and he had a younger brother named Andrew Jackson. These were names given to them by missionaries in 1910 or so when they were doing a census. And they asked them, hey, do you have an English name you'd like to use? Because it was a popular thing to have English names, and which is no different than today when people come up here, sometimes they'll get an Eskimo name. It's just, part of
tradition,
living around here.
Right. Yes. Okay.
Tradition. So my wife's father's mother was born in this village, and her younger brother was interviewed by a man named Louis Giddings, who did a lot of archaeological digs up here. And he did a book called The Kobuk River People. And they interviewed that man, and he had lived to adulthood before he ever met a white person, or a non-native, I should say. Mm-hmm. And he did that by going down to the coast when he was about 21, 22, and he went to a ship and met his first non-Inupiaq people. But that's it. My wife's grandmother would have been born in the mid to late 1860s because she was just getting old when Joe was born. Joe would be my wife's dad, and he was born Koksinyak. So he got an English name when his parents acquired the name as a family. They were given Paul and Mary Carter, and then there were his sisters and him, all given names in English, and they weren't forced on them. It was just like, hey, we're doing a census, and they have the phonic spelling of all their Inupiaq names, but the ones that stuck are just whatever stuck.
That's so weird.
It's interesting that my wife her grandmother was born before they ever met whites and during the time of the Civil War, or at the end of the Civil War. And it's all in books.
So her dad was older. Her dad was older when she was born, right?
She's the 14th of 15 kids. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And he had 2 wives, and his second wife was my wife's mother, and she had 10 children with him after his first wife had passed away, and he had 5 with her.
It's amazing
it's a
when
long
that
history
happens.
into that.
Right. It's such a big reach that you get.
Yeah. But then I was able to talk to somebody who had grown up here before there were ever police. So I'd ask him things like, what was it like when you didn't have a chainsaw? And he'd say things like, we let the river do the work. All those branches are ripped off the trees. They tumble down the river. Well, they're all laying along the edge up there in the wood. So, of course, I'd jump up the bank and, oh, my God, there's all that firewood, Or he'd say stuff like, there was Christmas before there was Christians up this way, because at that time of year, it's dark. Everybody's taking all their summer stuff. The ice is thin. They're just fishing. They're staying in place. They're making all the crafts and stuff because the real cold starts in like February and March. And it gets and so you send out and you have people come and visit and talk, and you got all this food piled up and all these skins and wood and metal and whatever you've accumulated all summer long to make into stuff. And at that time of year, they refitted everybody with new clothes, made sure their sleds were good, made sure their guns were working, their spears were working, their axe was sharp, whatever they had to do anyway to make a living. And he said that was because if you didn't take care of everybody around you and take care of the elders and the children and the orphans and all that stuff, is they'll get hungry, they'll be cold, and they'll cut your throat, wear your clothes, eat your food, live in your house.
That's right.
Maybe feed you to the dogs.
It's so true. What do we say all the time, Scotty, about,
Yeah, so there's always a deeply ingrained lesson that turns out to you're going to die if you don't do it this way.
That's
in
right.
almost every
Yeah,
little story there is up here.
when somebody's kids are hungry, somebody's gonna get taken out because we want your food, because my kids are gonna eat tonight. That's the way it works.
And that was life before police, or life before justice. Yeah. So it was always the strong man that was on top.
It's still life. I mean, and I'll tell you what, there's a global food shortage going on. We should talk about that a little bit, because it's much worse than people are being led to believe, and a lot of it being, of course, amplified by geopolitical situation. There's a huge change underway that affects much more than just planet Earth. Of course, it's happening all over the planets, whether Mars or Saturn or Jupiter, Mercury. They're all heating up. They're all changing. And it's because we're going through a cyclical period where the Earth is going through a transformation. And in doing so, it's changing the climate. And it's in a way that can be very, very, very frustrating to people who have to live off the land, especially ones that
or plan. Yeah.
Yes, right, very much so. So how much have you seen it change, Chip? I know I've
it's
seen
changed
it.
a lot.
I've seen it in real time. And I mean, 20 seasons, well, actually 18 that I've seen, is a huge. It's about a 10-year swath. But the change that happened between the
so
time
far.
it started to now is unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. What do you think about that?
Well, we've had things like
what have you
different
seen?
plants come in. I'll tell you. I'll tell you what we have is, when it warms up, we have the permafrost is thawing deeper. Our tundra is thawing further down, and a lot of that land is collapsing because the ice that's just a couple feet below is now ice that's 4 feet below. But the other ice liquefied and found a way out, met a river or a lake. Some lakes have had frozen bottoms, and then their bottoms thaw, and they're sucked up like a sponge into the earth. They're gone. And then we've had a couple years. It's been a couple years. We've had some pretty cold winters, but a couple years before that, we had our Kotzebue Sound not freeze at all for the first time in known history, and that was 2 years in a row. Yeah, and then we have really thin ice.
Let me tell you something. The reason why I like talking to you about it is because I'm not subject to the science side of it. I'm subject to
I don't have any monetary gain either.
That's it. Well, it's you, and then it's the reach back from the village and the people there is unbelievable. So when you tell me it's never been done, I take it as, wow, it's never been done, because that's people telling you from generation upon generation back. That's all that reach back that we keep talking about. So that, folks, is why it's so important that we get this kind of observation out there, because it's truly happening. This is not, oh, it's not happening, it's man-made, who cares what it is, it's happening. And Chip is seeing it. Yeah.
Well, if we want to carry on some more, I was going to say, with the thawing of the tundra going so much, that we have new plant species coming in. So we have our tundras getting filled in with willows, and caribou aren't willow eaters. That's a whole different kind of animals. So that would be the bears live in the willows, the ptarmigan, the rabbits, the moose. But our caribou are getting edged out. They like the wide open spaces, like the sedges, the mosses, the herbs. And maybe it's much like the mammoth, where the climate changed, the plants changed, but the animals that eat those plants had to either go somewhere else, or adapt or die, right? So some things aren't adapting that I know of. But I would say on the most end up here, we're not seeing like a dramatic loss. We're seeing a loss in caribou because they're cyclic, like rabbits. They go up and down in population. It's a well-known thing. And we're down in the population right now. But when I was 20 till I was about 35, numbers were high. I had a good life as a caribou hunter. We made museum displays. We made all kinds of clothing and shoes and things to sell, and just generally had a good time. It's crazy, but now
That's
those things have
fantastic.
shifted away.
Yeah.
Those animals have gone somewhere else because they've eaten up their grays. And then we've got like animals in the sea, they have to stay a bit further north. And then what really happens is where our Kotzebue Sound and our Chukchi Sea, north of the Bering Sea, and even the Bering Sea itself, are relatively shallow, between like 25, 75 to 150 feet deep. And those animals can dive to the bottom and forage. But when the ice recedes all the way to the North Pole, the Arctic Ocean itself is like a mile or two deep. Nothing can dive that deep except maybe whales. They're going to go down there and go feed. And so the animals end up on the land, which they're not really used to because they're ice seals for a reason. And the walrus and all them other ones, if they don't have somewhere to let their pups rest and sleep, or if it can't support their weight of their body and let them rest themselves. And most of that ends up impacting the young ones. They're the ones that can't make it to land after 3 or 4 days. I think I watched a thing where a polar bear with a cub swam for 9 days to get to land, but the cub didn't
Get
make it.
out.
I think the cub was gone by the 6th day. That's a long swim. But
Yeah.
it's like the caribou. It knocks off the babies, so we're not getting the replacement kids. We don't have the new stuff coming along, and unfortunately, most of nature is based off of eating the young and the dumb. I mean, like
Yeah,
little
right.
big fish eat little fish.
Mhm.
The
Right.
bears go out and kill lots of moose calves, lots of caribou calves. When I'm out hunting animals, especially fur, and I want to trick it and call it to me, it's almost always young lynx, young wolf, a curious animal. Older ones, boy, just one time, and we call them educated, and they're gone. They hear your snow machine, they don't even wait to see you. They're just gone, whatever that animal would be. If they're already running by the time you see them, we always laugh, call them educated. But it's just the way animals are. That's how they adapt and get to be old
Well,
too.
yeah, you see all the Discovery and National Geographic. You watch them, and you see all the shows on just the cheetahs, the lions, all the savanna animals, and it's the same thing. They go after what's the easiest way to eat. Easiest way to
Yep.
eat. Go after the baby.
Yep.
Hey,
Yep.
that's the way it is.
Every
So I mean
time.
that doesn't change, but we're humans. We're one step above, or at least you'd hope we're one step above, and so we can make that
Nope.
decision to say, yeah, we're going to let that live so nature can do its thing. Does it mean it's going to happen? I don't know, but we're going to at least give it a chance today. That's about all. Hey, what can you do? But I mean, as far as like, how
Making a
about
living.
salmon?
Oh, we got tons of salmon this year. Last year we didn't have a good chum run. This year we had a pretty
Yeah,
good chum run. We got some silvers. There weren't a lot. Last year though, we had a pink run that was just crazy. I mean, there was
yeah.
just so many of them. We didn't even fish for most of those. Yeah, I just let them go by. We had enough quickly. And then this year we kind of hit whitefish and trout a lot. We got some chums put up, but then it started raining, so we didn't really get a chance to make much smoked fish for ourselves, which would be the silvers. And you just can't. You can smoke them, but when it keeps raining and raining, you got 100% humidity for 2 weeks at a time. Things don't dry, and
I'll tell
they
you one
just
thing
become
that blew
ugly.
me
So
away, and
it's
we'll
dog
talk more
food.
about this too. Is
Y'all
the
got to
is the
eat.
mosquitoes, man? Oh my god!
Oh, by the pound and
Oh,
by
the
the ton.
mosquito!
Yeah,
Oh my god! Oh,
that's June and
that is
July. That those 2 months are
oh,
something. Oh man,
what is that all about? I mean,
that's biomass too. That's important for our ecology up here with so many animals that live off of mosquitoes, from the swallows to all the insects that
do you
get
guys have
eaten up, and the things
dragonflies?
that eat the insects. Sure do. Lots of dragonflies. We love
I
those
was gonna,
things, and we have
yeah, I was
swallows.
hoping so.
We,
Okay.
we
Ooh.
the swallows are the great ones because they come in swarms and they live right across
Yeah,
the river in the mud bank. And when we have a still day, we'll have all these mosquitoes on our tent, and we love to hear the swallows show up and like 30 of them running up and down the tent, just feeding themselves like like it's jelly beans or something.
man. There's a bird I know that if you just put the house up, they'll come, and I can't remember what it is. They live in this area.
Probably a swallow.
The martins, yeah, martins.
Oh,
They are, but I don't know if they're up in Alaska. Probably not. But you just put these gourd houses up, and next thing you know, you've got all of these birds that eat like 10 times their weight in mosquitoes. every day. It's
great. Basically a swallow too.
It's a swallow. Yeah, sure, it's a swallow. But so it's interesting because I thought we had bad mosquitoes. Oh, hell no, we don't have bad mosquitoes. Not like you guys. And I mean, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, you have to literally have like the screen nets and all that. Oh, it's terrible. Terrible.
I use bug dope a couple times a year. It's got to be pretty out before I'll put the chemicals on. But yeah, screens. And then the magic is having a hoodie. You put the hood up, it's around your face, and you just blow. And it just gets rid of the mosquitoes that are bothering you. Oh, so you see us with those hoodies on all summer long. Yeah. And the traditional clothing had hoods for that reason.
All right. Well, we got to go to break. We're going to go to break, take about 5 minutes. And when we come back, Chip, if you want to stick around for hour 2, we're going to talk about some current events and anything else you want to talk about. What the hell? So don't go away, folks. We'll be right back. You're watching the Freedom Link on KGRADB.com. Don't go anywhere.
I'll be back.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Are you looking to go on a faraway journey that is magical and mysterious, reaping on mystical legends? If so, then Mysterious Adventure Tours is perfect for you. Imagine a voyage to explore ancient mysteries of Ireland, haunted majesties of Scotland, or their chilling Birth of the Vampires in Romania. These small, esoteric getaways are limited and do fill fast. So, go to MysteriousAdventureTours.com and book your trip soon.
Hi, I'm Austin Butler from Baz Luhrmann's new film, Elvis.
Tomorrow, all of America will be talking about Elvis Presley.
As a blood donor himself, Elvis shared the gift of life with patients in need and asked others to do the same. We're encouraging you to give blood this summer. Please visit redcrossblood.org/ElvisMovie today to learn more.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected. Only at kgradb.com.
Well, we're back, everybody. It's hour number 2 of the Freedom Link, KGRADB.com. Joseph, Scotty Lopez, our special guest tonight, Chip Hailstone from the awesome. Wow, that was awesome, dude. Like you flew in out of like, woohoo! That was great. Award-winning, eight-time Emmy Award-winning series. 8 times. That's great. So at least people are getting some interest in this kind of stuff, which is a lot better than some of the other garbage on TV for sure. But 8-time Emmy Award-winning series, Life Up North, and
Life Below Zero, Joe. Life Below Zero.
Life Below Zero. Yeah, Life Up North and Below Zero and Below Zero.
I tell people 60. That I feel like I won those Emmys by association.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what though. I mean, the the people that they have, I don't know how did you get selected? That's a great question. So, like, how did it
Well,
happen?
to tell you the
How
truth,
does this?
I ever since I was a little kid, I was a photo bug. I love to take pictures. And when I moved to Alaska, one of the few things I brought with me, besides a couple books and a change of clothes, was a ghetto blaster, all the Slayer and Metallica I had, and Led Zeppelin and whatever. And I had a camera. I started taking pictures of the camera, and then I piled those up for years and years and years. And then the internet came along, and I got a laptop so that we could homeschool our kids. And then we had a, what do you call them things? Like a photocopier. And I downloaded all the pictures and stuff like that. And I started writing stories about them. And right now on your email, there's a link I sent you to a calendar of my subsistence lifestyle. And that was exactly what got me kicked off, was that I took all these whole year worth of what we do, and I put it into like a bit of a calendar with pictures and explanations.
Oh,
And
wow.
then we had a company called Iron Flowers come to us, and they said something about being on an Alaska show and, subsistence living and blah blah blah. So Discovery sent us this little video box. We videoed stuff. We sent it back. About a month later, we heard from them. They said, well, you have a wonderful family, you got really good subjects, but we're going to do all this in one place. And it turned out to be the Yukon, man. And they did it all in Tanana at that time. And then the same company got back with me a couple, maybe 6 months later, and said, this guy would like to meet you. He'd like to talk with you. And so I said, sure, okay. I talked to a guy on a phone. I can't remember his name, but then two guys came up here. There was Joe, I'm trying to remember his last name, and then there was the man that we really worked with a lot in the beginning, Tommy Baynard, and Tim Pastor. Pardon me, I didn't mean Joe. I meant Tim Pastor, who just thought we were going to do just really well. And then, and the day before that was a troubling day, but that day straightened kind of everything out. So they sold us on it for doing what they called a docu-series. They said to us, you're going to do what you do. It's so interesting. We want to watch. We want to see. We want you guys to, be yourselves, and we'll go on with this stuff. So this is the worst, but this is the truth. I think they canned our first 2 episodes because we just couldn't get with what they wanted to do versus what reality was. So we were given a video, or we were given a recorder, and we asked to say these certain lines to like help fix the first 2 episodes that were so messed up that they didn't want to put them on, and we mocked them so bad. One line was like, we have our food across the river because we have a cache over there, but I can't get it, so we're gonna have to barter or trade to eat. And I was like, oh no, we're gonna have to go to the store, or go on food stamps, or let's go visit my mom, or we could steal, before I start starving or any of that crap. And yeah, we mocked them bad. So we sent it back to them and said, we're not gonna do this, thank you. We appreciate, the effort. And they came back at us again and said, no. He says, I'll tell you what. And now this was there was Travis Shakespeare and Joe Litzinger. And we had a cameraman here named Joe Boots. And Joe Boots says, look, I make documentaries. I just want to film what it is you guys do, and just let's see what happens. Let's just do this your way, for the day or whatever. So we went and put a net in and pulled out like almost 400 whitefish. That was what got their attention. So we fixed the 2 first couple episodes where I set a trap for a fox by the trash, but of course you can't really do that because with so many options to eat, the fox will always avoid the trap,
Right.
And then we tried to explain to them we're not going to go caribou hunting, even though there were caribou back here, that we didn't hunt when there was no snow because I had a liquid cool snow machine and it would overheat, and I'm not trashing my ride before the season gets kicked off. And all the tundra is big lumps and it's frozen hard and there's no snow between, so all you're doing is beating up your shocks and breaking your stuff. And I had 25 caribou behind the house hanging up. So anyway, they got back with me. There was Litzinger, and who's the current showrunner right now, and there was Travis Shakespeare, and they brought in a couple other people. But what they did was they trusted us. They actually just said, okay, we're going to let you do what you think is going to, be presentable, whatever. If this doesn't work out, this doesn't work out. Because I was kind of a little bit at a standstill. But we said, okay, we'll give it another try. And they just let us do our thing.
I think it's worked out, man. Yeah,
with the proper
great.
stuff. with all my own shit, doing it my own way and saying it the way I wanted. I couldn't turn it down. So now it's like ripping someone off. It's like easy money. It's just crazy.
Dude, let me tell you
and
something.
these guys help
That
us out in a
trap,
lot of ways too.
that trap you put on the river that looks like should be in those haunted films, the circle with the and the freaking heads on it and all that stuff. I was like, whoa, that was just that. I mean, that
I
is,
think they like.
that's where it's at.
Well, I'll make those. I'll make those when I don't have too many traps to put out and such. But all that conjecture is mine. They don't make up nothing. What they want is filmability.
Right.
So if I'm doing something that they can't film for some reason, they're not interested. Which makes sense.
But are they there
right?
the whole time? Are they there the whole time with you when
No,
you're doing
they're not. They come here every month or two. We throw out a couple episodes. Maybe we do 3 or 4.
Saying, like, do they trust you guys to like maybe film some stuff on your own with them not there?
No.
Like here's some cameras. No, none of that, huh?
Nope. I've suggested it. They won't do it. It's got to be linear to what they're doing, and they want to see it from the day it happens till the day I'm done. That all has to be under control of a producer because we make so many hours of film. There's there's 3 or 4 GoPros at all times, 2 guys with cameras, and it's 8, 10, 12, 16 hours. That's a lot of film to watch and to manage into a story. So yeah, we've suggested it, but they've explained to it like, nah, if we can't, because they're here for story and they write what happens. And if they're not here to do that, it just ain't going to be linear for them. And I'm not a producer.
So let me ask you this. So then do they give you like, okay, for example, well, I could do this if I had this. Will they get you this to make that? Okay, good. See, that seems to me to be freaking awesome because what a win-win. Like I was thinking, man, you know what I'd love to see you embark on is to in Kowalik because you have wood, right? Wood's not a problem. You get plenty of wood. Do a wood gasifier. See if you could do like where you can run your generator off a wood gas and then you don't need gasoline.
I had a wood gasifier one time, and it really ate the engine up that I was using because they didn't have proper scrubbers. But
it's got to be.
What I'm interested in.
What is it? It can't be a 4-stroke. It's got to be it can't be.
It's a 4-stroke.
It's got to be a 4-stroke. Yeah.
Yep. But anyway, what I'm interested in is a steam engine, and which is still using wood for fuel.
Oh,
and then I could use waste heat to warm my house, and I could spin a couple dynamos and get myself some electricity out of the deal. And you know what I mean? Still burning firewood, maybe cook over it. I've thought of that, yeah. But they won't get me something like that. So more like what it is like if I went to No Attack, which is another village, and if you don't like the price of gas at $9 a gallon, go to No Attack where it's $17.25. But anyway, so I'm serious. So I tell them, get me a flight to No Attack, buy me some gas, and I've got my outboard, and I bought a boat off my daughter. So they're like, oh, sure, okay, we'll do that. That's what they'll get me. And then I'll say, well, I want to take my brother along. And so they're like, okay, he's got a ticket too. And then I tell them, well, hey, we got to eat, so throw me a couple $100 at the store. And we'll go down the store and, like fill up our travel box, because we got to eat whether we're on camera or off camera and you're sitting in a boat, I'm not actually hunting. So, yeah, we got some sandwiches and some other stuff together, whatever my brother felt like buying at the time. And he needed some packs of smokes, which was going to get us through it all. I don't smoke.
That was one of the things that I wondered was, across all the people, as it started, you see where they were when the series started. And then as each progressed, you see that standard of like I'm seeing all these projects that were in the mind for 20 years or so start to pop up. I could just see it pop up. And I'm like, I wonder if Discovery or the production company that's doing this is helping them along, which I would hope that was the case, to have some of these great ideas come to life, finally, because now they have somebody behind them that can make it happen, and they're documenting it along the way.
In some ways, like let's say I want to go off on a good caribou hunt somewhere, and they'll just take care of the phenomenal price of gas. If I break stuff and we're doing it on production and it breaks on production, they'll pay for it. It's like I blow a shock that's like $500, but they got it on film. Whew. Thank God, because they're going to get me shocked.
So like the one where Agnes blew the shock went out right from underneath her, took the whole ski out. I remember that was like maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. So
that's what I was referring to.
Okay. I just saw that. I just saw that. So yeah, that's why I'm saying that. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Did we lose him? Is he gone? Did the typhoon may have took him out?
Maybe.
Uh-oh. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if we can get him back. In the meantime, I think this is great to have a guy like this, Chip, to come on and just kind of give us exactly what it is that I think a lot of people are looking for, which is what's really going on, in the world. And a great place to tell is up at the North Pole, where, of course, it's moving like crazy. And the pole migration is causing a lot of change, Scotty.
Right.
So to hear this is really, really, really good, and bad at the same time.
Right. And it's just more confirmation that we are seeing these changes, these earth changes that are taking place. And, when you live in an area like where Chip lives, up in Alaska, these earth change events have a much more significant effect on those kind of areas, because you're dealing with more delicate ecosystems. You're dealing with, like you said, native peoples and just the people in general that live up there that depend on those migratory patterns of the animals, and the environment in general. And so when these changes occur, it's much more dramatic. They see it in a much more dramatic fashion than, say, somebody who just lives in the concrete jungle of the city, right? And they don't really see much of the effect, the change of the environment around them, because it's pretty stagnant. It hasn't really changed. You might notice it's a little bit, maybe have a little bit of a hotter summer or whatever, but people aren't as tuned into the environment as Chip is. And so he sees it in a much more dramatic fashion. And so, yeah.
Unfortunately for us, and for him too, he's going through a typhoon, and it's got pretty strong winds, 65 mile an hour. So it was just a matter of time before he got knocked off. If he comes back, that'll be great for sure. But one thing is for certain: if you there he is. I think he's coming back. Is he? Let's see. Do we have the paddles? Is the paddles coming? Boop. Oh, wait. We're gonna get him. Get it. Oh. There it is. Oh. All right. Sorry, we had to get the chipmunks out, and it had to run on the wheel to get your internet going again, but we got it. They're going.
Might have to do with the 65 to 70 mile an hour winds too.
Yeah. Well, they're typhoon proof, so don't worry about it. That's great. Oh man, no, it's good to have you back. We were like, oh man, if he doesn't come back, that'll suck. But hey, it's okay, because this is just a treat. Hey, by the way, if at any time Agnes wants to come on too, we wouldn't mind.
Well, she almost did.
All right, just so you know, it's okay. It's okay, because I admire everything she does, just like and especially the tightness. My wife and I, we have the same type of that kind of relationship. She's disabled, but I guarantee you we'd be out there hunting caribou together if she wasn't. Damn it. That's for damn sure. And moose. Massachusetts moose, that is.
But there was kind of, it's not a misconception, but I tell you what, up until we got on Life Below Zero, I was a hunter. My two sons hunted with me. And then I got framed by Trooper Gordon Young and Trooper Crispy Bits for perjury when I reported them for assaulting my daughter.
Can I ask you something? Is that a real name?
Yeah.
Crispy
Bits. I got his ass kicked in high school, became a cop for that reason.
That's bad.
That's my thoughts. Oh. Fuck him anyway. My whole point is this, though, is that my wife had to do what I was doing because my sons had grown up and moved away. My daughters, they hunt. And in this society, you always do what you have to do. So women
Right.
will hunt if they have to. Men will babysit and sew and do dishes if they have to. But it's pretty well divided up between work for men and women, especially when you hunt, because there's just so many things that you each end up doing that by the time 8 hours or 10 hours of the day is over, that you get your stuff complete and you're both working hard and long. But anyway, so I ended up taking my wife hunting to the places. Well, she had to, because I couldn't touch a gun. And I didn't have any guns in the house. She took all the guns to her aunt's. Anyway, so I'm only interested in accurate rifles. And to me, a very accurate rifle is a Finnish Mosin Nagant M39. And so you saw my wife with one. And those often were made from 1891 till, like the 1950s. But there's some with antique receivers. And the antique receiver makes it into a non-gun, which is why she carried that type of rifle with her. An exceedingly accurate bolt-action rifle that was not a gun. And then she kept control of the cartridges by keeping them in her pocket, on her person, or in the gun. And of course, unloading it. And then when we were just camping, just in general, we just kept the guns over at the kids or over at the cruise, just so that nobody could ever come in and say, "Hey, look, a fella with the gun," That's something I want to get out there anyway. And it was a lot of fun to take her to those places.
I mean, that kind of stuff would happen. Yep. Well, it probably would happen, right?
Oh yeah, I'm on TV, and they sit there and say, "Hey, he's close to a gun." I really disciplined myself on that shit. I had the case to win. You know what I mean? So like deviating from that wasn't going to happen, especially just to make television. That wouldn't be worth years in prison over.
No,
and
of course not.
It's all past me. I'm not a felon anymore, so obviously I get what I want and do what I want, basically. But I have an affection for old stuff. I mean, you can see a Burdan carbine, a flintlock fusil. I just love black powder guns, black powder cartridge guns, and then I've got a few stuff from World War II.
I remember. Was it probably about 2005 or so? I remember most of the Nagants were going for about $79 a piece. At yeah, and I mean, they were coming over in a boatload. Where I mean, everybody was like, "Buy this gun and get 3 Mosin Nagants at no extra charge." It was like, "All right, okay, we're gonna do it."
That was me.
But I'll tell you what, you're absolutely right. It is one of the better guns as far as accuracy is concerned. Funny for
and that's
for
what you want.
$79.
And the ammo was cheap. And
cheap.
You could
Steel, that steel jacket.
It was awesome.
Yeah. Right. And a friend of mine. A friend of mine that I didn't even think he was into guns at the time. He's like, "Dude, I bought a Mosin." And I was like, "Whoa, what? You bought a Mosin?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, cool."
They're dummy proof. You can beat animals to death with them if you had to, and you just use a little bit of water with that corrosive ammo, scrub them up, use some boiling hot water afterward for a rinse, and it dissolves the salts from the corrosive priming, and it heats up the barrel and it dries itself. And then a little bit of oil on top of that. And I've never had any problem with the corrosive ammo. So we get these cases of like 1,440 rounds for like $89 landed. I'll get 10. I shot those things to ad nauseum. It's crazy. Then after the felony, we got rid of everything. And then when I got the felony flipped in 2017,
you got it all back.
There wasn't much left. I asked my son for my 22 back. That's what I got. And then, my wife had a few of the Mosin stuff around. So now I've got her Mosin. She wrecked my old one, my Socko, into the gas tank. If you saw that in season 2 or 3. Yeah, she flipped the rig and just, she shish kebabbed that snow machine with that rifle and bent the barrel.
Just so you know, at least from a scientific standpoint, you proved it could be done. And that's the important part, is that it could be done.
Yeah.
Who knew?
But now the price of ammo is ridiculous. So,
Yep.
So a lot of times, this is something the production company
on purpose. On purpose. It's done they're doing it on purpose. They close down all the lead smelting plants. Why? Oh, well, it's going to harm the freckled 5-toed, whatever the heck it is that runs in the forest. So we can't have that. And really, is that what it's all about? Of course not. It's about taking away the ammo so we can't have any and making it so out of reach for everybody that only the select few have it. And
that's like machine gun. The 1934, they put a $200 tax on machine guns to keep poor people from owning a machine gun.
That's
and
right.
The only way they could do that was to tax it out of their reach. Well, that's not happening today, is it? So what they did was they cut off the guns, of course, in 1986 with the Volcker-McClure Act, the gun protection owner or whatever thing. And so there's no more being brought in the country, no more being made. There's a finite number, and as everyone, not everyone, but as they blow up or get stolen or wear out or whatever, the price goes up and up and up. And if you want a machine gun nowadays, besides passing the FBI background, the ATF background, the pile of paperwork that you do, the photographs you take, and you pay out $200, but you pay $25,000 for the machine gun.
A friend of mine was a collector, and he had everything. Jesus, he had the gun out of a Stuka dive bomber. He had a 20 millimeter sniper rifle. I mean, it was like at the time it was like $7 a round to shoot that damn thing.
Oh yeah.
And his route wasn't a class 3. His route was a curio and relics license. All of his stuff was over 50 years old. And as long as it was over 50 years old, that was enough to set. Now you still had to pay the $200 stamp, but you're not a class 3. So it was a lot easier pathway to get some of this stuff, vice, getting the latest and greatest. But sometimes, the old stuff works just as good, if not better.
The destructive device license is easy to get once you've gotten one. And I've always thought it'd be fun to have a Panzerfaust and just shoot, like a dummy. But it's just basically a tube packed with black powder, a flip up sight, and pow! It looks like so much fun in his videos now. We're doing that on their. So that's one of my bucket things.
I was gonna say that could be an episode. Just say float it at him.
Wouldn't that be great? Takes months to get a DD device. But something like that. I think what you guys are going to see though is a little bit more of some of the ways we work around Norvik, because to tell you the truth, we've been at camp for so long. My wife keeps talking about sticking around Norvik here for a while. So we've got the 20th season filmed. We just finished with that, and you guys are watching the 19th right now. And then I don't have a contract for the next one yet, so we'll see. But we're doing pretty good. We got 91% approval rating. We got 8 Emmys.
Who do we got to call?
I don't know who to call, but I trust my producer, my exec, my showrunner, Joe. And, he always tells me, and also there's a guy named Nicholas Bunker who does our production. We got some good story writers. I feel sorry for them because we'll tell them one thing, they'll write it up. We just do a whole different thing. But that's how the nature of it all is. So we start with a theme or something, and we'll be like, we're going to go fishing. That's the best we can do because who knows what happens fishing.
But that seems to be the safer route, wouldn't you think? Because wouldn't it be organic? How the whole thing develops is organic. And it's just like a human. The situation's going to be different every time, whether you're going out for a seal or you're going stringing a fish, fishing net, or every time is going to be unique and different. So how could you write a story to that?
Yeah, and plans can change on the fly. You might go out thinking,
it's the great thing that happens.
You might go out thinking, okay, well, this is the way the day's going to go, but there could be that one thing that happens that completely changes the direction the day goes. And so you got to work on the fly.
Or somebody in the higher ups will throw a wrench in the whole thing. I'll give you an example. It's not too long ago. We're doing our episode. We did the things we planned to do with the things that we plan to do them with, and then we decided, well, instead of going all the way back to camp, we'll go over and just go get right into the next episode, and we're gonna go walk down the beach and go find shit. We call it beach combing, and we got over to that beach, and they gave us this thing about.
Do that.
Well, so do I. So we got to the beach and we stop and we put up our camp, and they say to us, yeah, they've got a real problem with you guys taking things home. So when you find them, we can film them, but we can't film you taking them home. So we said, well, if you can't film us taking them home and we're walking down the beach with all this shit, you won't be able to film us because we're not leaving shit behind. We came here to beachcomb, which means we're leaving with what we find. And often it's things like whale bones, or, it's stuff that's washed up from somewhere else.
Why
it could be garbage to somebody. I had no clue. I didn't care. I didn't argue with them. I just said, fine, we're not beachcombing. I'm not walking 2 miles on the sand that way and 2 miles back. because it's going to be, it's no fun to walk in sand if you're not used to it. But number
like,
two,
what do they expect
what's the
you to do?
reward?
Oh, let's just go.
Well, that's the thing.
Let's go write poetry about this whalebone. Yeah,
the producer said, "You know what? I think you're right," and he blew it off as quickly as I did.
That's good, man, because that's dumb.
So what happened was the organic thing. We moved on to doing something right there. What was right in front of us that we're really good at, and I can't tell you what it is because we just recently filmed it, but you'll like it. And we didn't beachcomb, so we didn't leave with anything.
That's cool. I often wonder too, like if there's because we can inject conspiracy into anything, right, Scotty? We could do this, and I want to do.
Oh yeah,
I'm going to do that right now, right? So, could you imagine?
Sure.
Now that one of these guys are out in front, or the night before, they go out and they're like, they know you're going out the next day, so shh, 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 shh. I'm going to saw that ski and just make sure it comes off about halfway out there, yeah. And then they're ready for the film. They're ready. Do you think there's any shenanigans out there? Do they set the story up in any that kind of fashion?
They don't get a chance. Nah, they don't even get a chance. We just work together too closely for that stuff. Good.
How many hours a day would you say? How many hours a day on average?
Oh, I would say we work between 6 and 12 hours a day. A lot of it has to do with the light. Yeah, see, if we got the sun directly overhead and it's like 24-hour light, they don't like that. So we'll start at 2 p.m. But with 24-hour sun, we can keep on going. Another thing they like, especially in the midsummer, is the midsummer sunsets with all the flaming red and purple and stuff. So they'll say, hey, can we work till like 11 or 12 o'clock tonight? And we'll be like, well, can we start at 3 then? Because it doesn't matter to us when we're doing this stuff. Doesn't matter the animals or the fish either. They're still in the river. They're still doing what they're doing.
Do you guys have like a natural body clock? Is there, like, you and Agnes, do you guys
No, we go by the tides. We basically get up when the tide is before the tide's going to be high so that we can get out of there with a boat up and down. And then we live right where the river meets the sea. So we can take a large boat just up to where our camp is. And from there on, it's a small boat to go up a little shallow river, and it's full of rocks. And it's no place for a bigger boat unless you can afford it. But I don't like beating up my engines and stuff. So it's just one of those kind of deals. Yeah, and we go by the tides. We go down the ocean quite a bit. And also with the tides come the fish. So like maybe my wife will time herself to get up and do something during the day because the tide is rising. And at noon, the tide is up. And then she'll wait till 3 or so for the net to fill. And then she'll work her fish. And then other times there's tides in the middle of the night. And she wakes up first thing in the morning, cleans the net out, chops up all of her fish, doesn't put the net back in until it's time to go to bed. So, whatever the tide is doing is more of what we're up to.
Interesting. So it's more of a, like more of a lunar cycle that you're operating on than say the sun.
Very interesting.
And the sun just shines around you, I know what direction is or what time it is simply because I know where the sun is. But then, we also have the same thing happens in the dead of winter. We don't get complete darkness for 24 hours, but we get like an hour and a half, 2 hours of daylight. And then we have, some dawn and some
twilight.
Dusk attached to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it gives us about 3 hours of, operating time to clearly see anything. So we don't really hunt that much during
Is that all trapping when you do that? Is that all trapping in the winter?
Well, trapping, being home, here in Norvik, the village, watching basketball games, visiting with people, going to like different birthday parties and stuff. It's our time to be in the village. And then at the end of January, the sun is back for about 4 hours a day. You got some dusk and some dawn, and you can kind of work with that. So then we generally move back to camp at the beginning of maybe February, end of July or end of January, just somewhere in there. And then generally we stay in camp until probably August. And August used to be when we'd come home and put our kids into school, and then we'd prep up and we'd go upriver and go caribou hunting. And fill the boat up with caribou right at freeze up, probably break the ice going home, put those animals up in their skins because you protect them from the bugs, you protect them from the sand. It's meat. We get the bulls right before they rut. So they're at their maximum fat and they don't have this, it tastes like someone drank gasoline and pissed it all over the meat. They have a horrible rut taste. And as soon as you detect rut, then you stop hunting bulls, and you can smell them. But before you smell them, what you'll see is that their bellies will fill up with water. They'll just drink water. They won't be eating food because they're trying to go around chasing the females and mating all that they can, and fighting other bulls and pairing off more
they're
females.
very similar to deer. So deer
But
down
they
your
are,
skin.
but they're in large groups, like 1,000 or more,
Oh, I
and they
know,
come
that's so
pouring through. And
awesome.
we go out in the river and we shoot them in the back of the head. So you pith them. The 22 bullet goes in the head. It doesn't exit, so you don't wound any of them. You see exactly what you want.
It
You
just
get
acts like a
exactly
blender,
the animal.
basically.
Yeah, basically, and you're not wounding them, so they're not running away across the tundra.
Right.
You're not having to skin them and then carry them across the tundra. You can leave them in their skin, and when you have a carcass and skin, you basically have a meat package. When you skin it, you have to work it, and then you've got flies and you've got sand, and we're operating out of the river and stuff. Also, next to the river's edges are dense willows, and if you go panicking the caribou, the babies get mixed up and separated from the moms, and that's kind of a messy way of hunting. Now, my wife's father, when he was growing up, his father used to take a kayak and go out and shoot him with a 22, and then they would have snares in the willows all along the side of the river there. And this was back before Social Security, or anybody giving a shit. So you had to make do for yourself. You had to get all your bedding, your boots, your everything. So these guys would just get as much as they can. They'd take their boat in the morning, they'd go upriver, and they'd go back and they'd lance these animals that were in the snares and load them in the boat. That's what the women would be doing, and the children. And then the men would be in their kayaks. And as these groups of animals are crossing, they'd be out there selecting the ones they want and selectively catching them. We call it catch, but killing them. You're hunting.
Right. Of course.
And that's what we do. We go out there, we see exactly what we want, and then the rest go without being wounded, without being separated, without being panicked, and without getting away.
So
a lot of people say it ain't sporting, and I agree. It's meat. We call it making meat.
In a given year, what would you say, like, as far as the fish you catch and caribou you kill and the moose and all that, how many a year do you average, let's just say?
Depending on the year, I probably average maybe 50, 60. And that's because my kids can hunt for themselves now. I don't have to hunt so much for them. And then we share it around. When like last year, I caught COVID. So the next day, me and Ed, Itty Bitty's honey, we jumped in the boat and went up the river and got 25 caribou. And while we were up there, he outfitted his mom with caribou. And my daughter Mary lives up in Ambler, and her honey Preston went out and got all their caribou. And we came back here and we divvied up. I think we gave 2 other families 5 caribou.
But 50 to 60, you'd say, that's a good number for you? That's about
pretty much. We eat about a caribou a week.
Okay.
Yeah, we eat about a caribou a week when we've got caribou. Okay.
Right.
Sometimes we ain't got nothing. We got fish. You know what I mean? And I like to eat moose, but I don't hunt moose because I'm a good caribou hunter. I usually have plenty of that.
Yeah.
Just how
that's cool. So how about fish? Yeah. How many fish do you catch a year, would you say?
Well, that's crazy.
I've seen you guys pull in so many.
Yeah. Well, on a trawler or something, they sort them right there, dump them in the sea. We have to sort them out right at the net. Like, are these even going to go in the tub? Because when salmon spawn and they're still alive and they're the living dead. We call them zombie fish. Their skin's coming off. Their teeth are out.
I never knew that about salmon. Never knew that about salmon.
Yeah, they go up, they spawn, and then they slowly die, and they return to the ecology of the river. So we leave them in the river. We don't throw them up on the sides. But it's what the bears are eating, the seagulls, the eagles. They're all eating these dying fish. And so we sort them out right there, and then we go through a drying process, or we put them into a freezer, or they'll ferment them. They ferment whitefish and stuff. And if any of that stuff goes wrong, gets a little sand on it, maybe some fly eggs, they didn't catch, or maybe they've just got a lot. Our dogs have got to eat, and we have 3 dogs, and they eat what we eat. And anything that's left over is never thrown away. It isn't like any fish here or any piece of a caribou ever got to the dump. Basically, if we can't eat it or don't want to eat it, or we've cooked it and it's too much, the dogs get it, and they eat bones and they don't crap them out.
One thing I've seen about this show is the longevity of the dogs up there, Scotty. Is how long they living on that diet, not the processed food,
fish and meat,
but on the natural fishes and the meats. And it didn't matter, like beaver, all that stuff. It's natural. And some of these dogs are pulling sleds and they're 18 years old. And I'm like, what? How is this happening? You
Well,
know?
look, it's just like humans, right? I mean, you eat a healthy diet, you're a more healthy person, right? And so if you're feeding your
And run.
dogs a lot of if you're feeding your dogs a lot of processed crap and a lot of this, junk, they're not going to be as healthy as if they're eating what they're naturally what they naturally want to eat, which would be fish and and all of that stuff. So yeah, of course they're going to be a lot healthier if they're eating a healthy diet. It's just how it is,
So what do you think,
Yeah.
Chip? Do you think that you're going to see a return of some of this, like the caribou and everything back? Are you on an upswing now, based on what you know, or?
Nah, we're still on a downswing, but
Yeah.
it's just how it goes. I don't know. I always say this. I don't know the future. I just don't. But I know where the caribou are, and I know how to look for the caribou. And I tell you, this next winter, that's just going to be me. I've got this determined in my head already, because we've gone 2 years in the Kewalik with very few caribou coming around, but they're very large groups of them, probably 70 to 120 miles away, and that's where I got to be. So this winter is going to be a good change up on that. I'm going to take
Well, that's cool.
either the film crew or just myself. I'm going to go off and go do my caribou thing, and it's just a good healthy living. I mean, there's everything good about a caribou, and you can really make so much stuff out of it. It's crazy. A moose, not so much. And a moose is a lot of meat at one time. And generally, what happens around Norvik is that somebody goes out and shoots a moose. They keep 30, 40 pounds for themselves, and they just give the rest away, because people kind of just get by on moose until they can get a hold of caribou.
So do you guys
and I can always trade them.
Do you guys do like the Etsy store? Do you anything like that, or eBay? Sell your stuff? Like if you make art, or
No, we should. Here's the thing. Ting Mac just started her own little company, and she's building a website, and it's called Hailstone Enterprises. And we get so many requests for people to sell stuff. And then the one product I've been thinking of making is an ulu, and based on like a local pattern, and I'm just figuring it out. But I think I could actually hire a bunch of people here and build a place, and it's 7 components, and one of them is variable, which is the shape of the blade. And there's a couple different sizes. There's really big ones, there's medium ones, and little sewing ones. And I think actually I could probably kick something like that off. And
you know what else?
And I can
what else I think? What else I think would be really cool is the sleds. The sleds you guys
make.
I
do that anyway.
Yeah. Oh man, that is
unbelievable. I've got a shop I'm working on. I'm building outside actually, and that's one of my things is going to be sleds, and then the woodcuts. Me and my wife and even my kids, we like to make all kinds of crafts and stuff. That's what we did before we ever got on LBZ. If you get a chance and you look at the link that I sent you on the email, there's like a 11-page write up there, and you'll see in there's some museum displays that we did, and some of them are like little fawn skin parkies for girls. Some of them are whole, like all 4 people there, and we used to make bank on that stuff.
What I'll do, folks, just so you know, is I'll put the link I'll put the link to Skip's page there with all this info on the description of all the videos. I'll make sure it gets on there. That way people can go and check it out, because that'd be really
YouTube
cool
video.
Yeah. What's your YouTube channel?
Chip Hailstone.
Oh, that I'd have never guessed. Yeah, we got about 20 minutes. You got anything else, Scotty?
Okay.
No, I just I think it's really interesting that we talk to Chip and get his insight into his way of living and on all of that stuff, and with the way things are going right now with the economy and all that, I think it's important for people to kind of pay attention to some of this stuff, and kind of get dialed in on how to be a little more self-sufficient, because there's a lot of people out there who who genuinely believe that food just comes from the grocery store, and they don't even realize how that food gets to the grocery store, right? And it's when things start getting bad and people actually have to go out and be self-sufficient and do things for themselves, it's going to be a rude awakening. It's going to be quite a shock for a lot of people. So, I think shows like Life Below Zero and everything, it's good for people to be exposed to that and see that there are people out there that are living off the grid that aren't so reliant on the government taking care of them, because the government isn't always going to be there to take care of you, and the government hasn't always been there to take care of people. In fact, for most of humanity, people were there to take care of themselves, and so with the way society is right now, and a lot of the things that are going on, geopolitically, economically, all of that, it's just, it's interesting because on one hand, you have the government here telling people, hey, we need to not be using so much energy. We need to be, conserving and going green and all of this stuff. But then when people decide, we have these people that decide, hey, I'm going to go live off grid. I'm not going to be relying on the energy grid, and I'm not going to be relying on the system so much. Then they're chastised for it, right? Like, so it's a double-edged sword. Do you want people to conserve? Yeah, or homeschooling or any of this stuff. So, it's like they want you to be dependent on them, but they don't. It's like, well, which one is it? Do you
money
want me to
is the drug?
Right, right. That's exactly
some money.
What it is.
Now do what I say, and I'll give you some more. Yeah.
right.
And call 911 and die. That's what you had me thinking earlier. Because you got to rely on yourself.
Right. So, I think it's good, for people to see, like how you guys are living on life below zero and being self-sufficient, and it also inspires people to go, hey, maybe I can go and do that too, and I don't have to be so dependent on everything, and maybe I can be a little more independent and take care of my family and realize that, if something does happen, I have the ability to still provide for my family when all of this, goes down. So, yeah. And, there he is. He's back. Joe.
So funny story, right? So this typhoon that Chip had just took a right and then went kind of.
Did it?
Oh yeah. But it changed form midway through into a kitten. And Typhoon Kitten went and shut my power strip off on my computer below. And I was like, what happened? This is crazy. Nope. Kitten. Boop. Well, you got to.
I have lots of children, so no pets in the house.
Yeah, no, that's the first time that's ever happened in probably 17 or 18 years of doing this stuff. So that's an interesting thing. So, boy, when I was thinking about inflation and we were talking about the food, and funny enough, I was just having a conversation prior to this about that very thing, the vegetables in California, and how the harvests are going to be about 40% below what is considered, I guess, normal. But the persistent droughts are wreaking havoc. From the vegetables and the fruit standpoint, Alaska is not quite known for that kind of stuff. I mean, you got cranberries and the wild berries you guys harvest, but as far as like your onions and your leeks and all that kind of stuff, what kind
Southern
of prices
Alaska.
do you pay for that?
Most of that's coming out of Southern Alaska. They get potatoes, they get onions, they grow. They got some pretty big cabbages, things like that. But generally, things weigh. The more they weigh, the more they cost. And like kids buy a pop around here for a couple bucks, $3 sometimes. I just do it.
So it's all a factor of the transportation of getting it there. Is basically what it is, huh?
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Even ourselves, we prefer to use boats and snow machines simply because they're about the third of a price of flying in an airplane, and they're a hell of a lot faster than walking.
Yeah. Well,
so
it's nice
too. To get the gas. I don't see electrical vehicles taking over up here at all.
No, but it is nice. It's nice to see and at least have that availability to you where you have the riverways and the waterways, not just in the summertime with a boat, but also in the winter. It's cold enough to where you can actually use it as a highway, so
And
that's
they're all
awesome.
pristine.
Yeah,
You can drink the water. I do.
that's fantastic. You couldn't do that here. You'd grow 3 heads. The Connecticut River. The Connecticut River for about 100 years was an industrial dumping ground, so I wouldn't be drinking the water out of that in any time. So, no. Now, maybe now,
We're also
'cause
blessed with really clean air too.
Oh yeah,
I'm
that's a
sorry.
good thing. No, but I mean, we're also, you've got waste treatment plants that normally, if wherever you have a population center, are dumping into the waterways. So I mean, it's so nice that you say that, and some of your the other families that are on that show, they do the same thing, and it's one of those things that you I guess I don't know if you guys take it for granted, but I could see how it would be taken for granted because it is not the norm in the world to have that kind of water available basically anywhere you go.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
such a
blessing.
and it's getting so bad. All the aquifers are drying up. Um, you've got Lake Mead at a historic level to where you're finding all the mafiosos' contract kills now. They're all starting to
The
resurface.
world's heating up and the water's moving. That's
Yeah.
basically what's happening.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's wreaking havoc all over the place, but that's not the only thing. Humans, you've got the migratory patterns of humans moving now too. People are moving up out of Africa into Europe, and you've got people down in
And
South
Martha's
America
Vineyard.
and Mexico and Martha's Vineyard.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, true, but true.
Those people
that-
disappoint me so badly. If anybody could afford to help somebody out, my God,
I know,
50
of course,
people. It's nothing.
right? Yeah. Oh, give them
It's
to the
insane.
national. Woo! Give them to the National Guard, right? Yep, that'll
I
do
don't
it.
know. This village could handle 50 people easily. And we do it all the time for funerals, for basketball games. It's just, those guys are ridiculous. But, that's geopolitical crap. You know what I mean? I can understand. There wouldn't be this migration if, they actually secured the border. I wonder why they don't just impeach these people. Because, I mean, the fourth says that the executive power has to secure our border. I don't see how this is working very well. I tell you what, here in Alaska, our border's secure. That's for sure. We got satellites up there in the sky, and then we've got bombers with electronical detection equipment flying back and forth with armed fighters that escort Russian ones right at our border here. And then we've got the Coast Guard on top of it with ships, and they've got helicopters flying all along it. And then we've got the Navy underneath with nuclear submarines. So what? No white people get through. Now we keep the Russians at bay because the Russians are our neighbors, The Russians, even though they're bad boys in Ukraine, they're still our neighbors. And yeah, we've got a secure border here. That's how it is.
My kitten's wreaking havoc again. Now it's going after my camera. They are quite mischievous, those little kittens. Let me tell you what. Certainly not sled dogs.
Oh no, I got a nice little sled dog for my wife, Kumuk, and you'll see her in the show. And then Doug returned Monster Jr., so he's returning to the show.
Oh, that's awesome.
Our dogs.
That's fantastic, man. That's great.
My son had the one dog for about a year.
Do you guys sell? Do you guys do any selling of the caribou or the salmon or anything like that? Do you get to do that?
No, it's illegal. But you can trade it and give it away.
Okay. All right, so that works. At least you're getting something for that. Because I was wondering how that works. If you could actually.
We have people who say to us, I'd like to have some of this or I'd like to have some of that. And we keep them in mind. And when we work that amount up, we'll go over to them, And we've been doing this for years. Because we have people here we know that fish all the time and never hunt. And then, they'll just want a caribou or two.
Right.
Then you have things like, maybe I go caribou hunting and I have to get a babysitter. And the babysitter wants a couple caribou. So, it's maybe payment that way. We redistribute everything around here.
That's awesome.
And that's what I like about a lot of the folks up here is that, Eskimo Rich is to be sitting on top of a pile of food and giving it away to people. And of course, white people, or not whites, but non-native folks tend to sit on top of the pile and fend people away from it. Stay back,
true?
and they call that rich. But yeah, to be the provider here is to be the rich man.
It's interesting you say that, but you can't do that unless you're connected to the environment around you and to the to nature, and it's you can see that when you're watching your family grow, and you over the course of 10 years, just how connected you guys were. That's why I asked, like, when do you guys, how does your body clock work and all that, and the tides. It's amazing. It's not 9 to 5. That kind of thing.
No,
I gotta go to work.
That's in the summer. In the wintertime, it's basically get up before the sun gets up and go to bed 6 or 8 hours after the sun goes away.
Yeah, but I mean,
sometimes you want to be out there, being busy.
I find it absolutely fascinating, and man, I'll tell you what, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I would love to. That to me is that seems to be where I'm targeting my Zen place. The only thing I got a problem with is those damn mosquitoes. Something's got to be done about that. I think what I'm going to do.
That's what I was.
I'm going to get a CRISPR kit, and I'm going to genetically engineer the death of mosquitoes. That's right.
Boy, you would probably be surprised at how much havoc on the ecosystem that probably would that would occur by getting rid of those pesky things, because you don't realize it, but I wonder how much stuff actually depends on those mosquitoes, right? You're talking about the swallows and all of that stuff.
There was a 50% chance that we were going to blow up the planet with the with the first nuclear bomb, right? And the scientists said, you know what? Whatever.
Anyway.
Boom, and they did it anyway. I'm saying, let's take our chances. Mosquitoes, come on. We'll take our chances. What's the food chain? What is that anyway? Come on, it's overrated.
Yeah, they're worse when you're sleeping and they're in your ears or up your nose. Oh man,
that's the only thing.
But those nightmares are over. Yeah, I don't have to deal with it until next June.
How about ticks?
Maybe
Do
May.
You guys get ticks?
No, nothing poisonous. No ticks. Nothing bites us. No snakes.
No snakes.
Nothing.
Just mosquitoes.
No fleas. Just mosquitoes.
No fleas, just mosquitoes. No fleas, you say? Wow, that is impressive.
Wow.
I might be willing to make a trade for that.
I was about to say, that's kind of a trade-off. I might have to make that trade-off, man.
If all I had to deal with is mosquitoes, perhaps the fly, maybe bees every once in a while, I could do that. See, most of my time, especially in the military, was, it was desert climate. So, yeah, I mean, there were snakes and camel spiders and things like that, but mosquitoes there were not, and that was a very nice time if you liked breathing air that felt like somebody had a blow dryer in your mouth. Like that, because it's just so
I would die.
hot.
I would.
Yeah, it's terrible, dude. But we're almost out of time. We got about 2 minutes left. Why don't you tell the folks where they maybe your website, your YouTube channel, anything you want them to know? The floor is yours.
Chip Hailstone YouTube channel, and then sometimes I'm on Twitter. I would prefer to make statements than to be on Facebook or something, because that was just I didn't know anybody on Facebook. But Twitter's just a small one. And then I just like to read. I consume information like crazy. I always have a book somewhere, something I can fall into. Other than that, I just make a living like you see it on the TV. It's not much different. The thing is it has to be filmable. If you're going to see it.
It has to be filmable. Yeah.
I'm not taking a shower in front of you guys.
No. However, there are people that have. Let's be real.
Yes. Well, just not us.
Okay.
But you know what? It's really enjoyable because, like I had to say, is that they let us say our words and do it our way, and they give us such total control over things that other people would like go up in arms over. And that's all due to Travis Shakespeare, Joe Litzinger, Nick Bunker, and all the crew there that work with these guys and work with us. Yep. And they send out dynamite crews and Emmy Award winning cameramen, and they're our friends. And we're faithful to the show because they're faithful to us. Yeah. So
we're out of
just
time.
keep doing it while we can do it. All right.
Thanks so
it's been
much
nice
for
talking to you.
me,
Hope
Chip,
I talk to you again.
And we'll see you folks later. Have a good night. See you next week.
Pasta pasta.
Bye-bye now.